Varmt välkomna till Filmrummet, and this time we will have a kind of a Swinglish conversation. We have a situation. First of all, we love you, Finland, because you are here. Yesterday we got our friends in Denmark and Norway. They said that they canceled this seminar. They couldn't come for different reasons. But you are here, Mario Valve. And we are very happy for that, even though it's snow and everything. And you have been working as a film commissioner at the Finnish Film Foundation since 1.5 years, as I understand it.
Yes.
And then also we have Hjalmar Palmgren from the Swedish Film Institute. And we will talk about gender equality. First of all, I just want you to reflect a bit. How many here were at the last seminar to listen to Nordic? That's good, yeah. And I also want to say that we are very open, because now we are a bit fewer people here, of questions. You can tell them in Swedish or so, but just, to get everything you want to know. Now you have the chance to have both Finland and Sweden here. Yeah, so I just thought of your reflections of this Nordicom study that we saw the beginning of, the end we will see next year.
Well, I am not so into it. I only saw the statistics, and I think it is interesting that somebody puts time and effort to really show the graphics, and because you can't fight the graphics, you cannot fight the statistics, but they don't tell the whole truth. And for us who see the thing from the inside, it's more complex than only the statistics. But I think it's fantastic, and I'm very happy to look deeper to the research when I have time. But now I just saw the overall. Yeah.
And you, Hjalmar, what did you think?
I think that it's really interesting to see the numbers and to see how bad it looks at the numbers. And I think that it also shows that even though at the Film Institute we had attention on this question for several years, still it doesn't change so much. You could say we made a bad job, or you could say that shows how important it is to have a driving force like the Film Institute in this question. Because even if we really try hard to divide the support equal, still the outcome in the premieres of the feature fiction films is not equal. So something happens in the industry along the way. But I also want to say that we focus a lot on feature fiction films, but in other kinds of films like documentaries and shorts, it looks much better.
Yeah, we will talk about that later, like following the money. But at first, we just have to know the basis here. What assignment do you have in Finland for working with gender equality within the film industry?
Well, we don't have an agenda.
Oh shit!
If Finland looks good in the statistics, it's accidental. There's no politics behind it. It's just that the female filmmakers have been so good without any help or any special effort from the institute. But I think we aim for equality, and we tend to see quality in many ways, in many different qualities, and appreciate them. But we don't have an agenda in the institute. We don't. We sometimes we count a little bit, but not. We don't. It makes us feel better, but there's no obligation other than our own choice. also the system, the system, how we make the decisions. Somehow it's a little bit difficult to compare the projects and pick and choose the projects. We don't rule out the female and male, the leading parts and the
main character.
Main characters, no, but not even the principal creative forces like producer, screenwriter, and director. We look at them but it's only general and well-meaning, like overall something. We don't have the thing that you have here.
But do you miss that as a film commissioner?
I could live with that. I could live with a quota easily, and I think the female film workers or filmmakers could live with that. But there is a strong opposition in Finland for that. For people who are not filmmakers and who are not female, but also some female filmmakers think that it somehow demeans us. It put us in a position that we don't want to be. We want to fight our own wars.
And what do you think about that?
Well, as I said, I could live with the quotas, and then we could get more. If someone is successful in this system, how easy it would be for her to be successful in the system where more female get the chance. Because in the end, for women, it's only that more female gets the chance. For men, of course, it is frightening that they lose their possibilities and jobs and spots in the sun.
And you, Hjalmar, how is it at the Swedish Film Institute? Do you have an assignment?
Yes, as you know, with the new film agreement from this year or last year, that started 2013, we have an assignment to divide the money equally. I think that means 50-50, or as close as 50-50 it gets with a few titles. So, and I think that's good. I think it's an easier job for the commissioners to have specifics, to have something rules to live with, than to just try to be fair within their jobs.
So how do you work with that? How is the discussion? And when do you discuss?
Well, actually we don't have that much discussions because it's so obvious for all of us that this is what we have to do. And the film commissioners, at our decision meeting, we discuss the statistics. How does it work? Because it's not each commissioner for him or herself. It's the support system overall that's gonna success. So we have to compare the individuals' numbers. So it's not that hard. It's not that hard in that much to discuss. This is what we have to do. Simple as that.
But how do you work with that? Because we all have different prejudice, man. Is it easy for everyone to work with it? Do you have tools to work with this, or is it the film agreement that is the tool?
That's the tool, but I think we have to complement with other tools, as you suggest, that we have to look at ourselves and because it's not, there wasn't a specified tool before that gave men the upper hand in applications, and that was not because men are so damn good at making film proposals. It's because of how our system works, our society works, and how we look at each other, I think. So we have to try to find new ways of looking at projects. I think hard tools like the film agreement is a very good way, a good help in that respect. But I also think we have to educate ourselves, and that's something we're going to do more of.
And will you do this? This film agreement is between 2013 and 2015. Are you sure that are you certain that you will fulfill 50% in these leading positions?
Yes.
And is that also with the automatstöd, as you all know, or?
No, we're going to exclude that, because I think that we can't take responsibility of a system we can't control. We take responsibility of our decisions, we can't be responsible of a system that's automatic without us making decisions. And that's something we have to discuss, of course, if I'm correct, if Anna agrees on that and so on.
So what about the selection process when you are a commissioner? Can you, if we shall, follow the money, the script comes into you, and how many scripts do you get? You work only with feature length.
I work with feature, and I have a colleague, and the customers, the applicants choose for the commissioner, and they sort of I think they go like 50-50 or near that. And now we just had a deadline for screenwriting scholarships that we give to individual screenwriters, and I got 27 applications or 27 projects, and out of them I think 15 were male. And at that point it is the female and the male are as active, and because at that point it's the filmmaker or the screenwriter who has the initiative. But then we have the development stage, and then there's got to be the production company involved, and when it goes to production, then of course there's the money goes to production company, and then something happens that out of the big number of female screenwriters, they somehow don't succeed in the development and production. Especially, it's got to be the bottleneck has to be the development stage, because almost all of the production support goes to productions that has had the development money from the foundation. So something happens there.
What happens there?
Well, there is no statistics, and that's not science. But my guess is that the producers, maybe it can be that the screenwriters don't find the producer. The producer, director, screenwriter triangle somehow is more active when there's men involved. It can be that, and it can be that producers somehow tend to choose productions or screenplays that has a strong male impact, because they think they bet the safest horse. Because if it's in the history that it's easier to finance films that are there's a more it's male dominated. The creative triangle is male dominated, if you say so. So it can be that if it's the safest road, it's the way it's been done before, and then because if we want to change that, then I don't know how to do it from the foundation. I mean, maybe it's not our job. It's for somebody else to do, because we don't dictate that you have to take. But of course, if we had that quota for then the producers, then the female the filmmakers are more attractive to the producers to choose them and develop put put the money, their money or their emphasis to the productions that are more female, that there's stronger input from the women.
I think really that's a nice thing with quotation, that makes the business, because we're just a tiny part of, not that tiny, but we're part of the business, and there's a whole system outside us that also makes decisions. So I think if you have a quotation system that helps the other part of the business to choose female directors or screenwriters or producers. In Sweden, producers is not a big issue because we have a lot of producers, but still, I think it's a good way because they understand that it's, of course, it's easier if they propose with projects that fits our profile. It's easier to get the support. So I think that's nice.
But do you discuss this with the other financiers or distributors, gender questions?
Yeah, the discussion sometimes, comes up inside the funding system. Yes, and also among the filmmakers. For example, a couple of weeks ago, we had a strong debate a public debate on quotas but the strongest voices, I think they were against it, but the strongest, they who shout the most are, maybe it's not the majority, I don't know, but there I think I have I have the feeling that it could be difficult to explain to people. For me, I can see it, and I think it's for the best, and I think it's part of the it's part of the whole picture of it. We also have the problem of a female, the stories being portraying female as stereotypes and that kind of things, and I think that's it's the other end of the same conversation. I mean, because the stories that we tell come from the people who are allowed to tell them, and
what do you do with that in Finland?
Well, we don't have we don't have the film agreement, and we don't have a very strong strategy that maybe we should have, but we don't. We just, we close our eyes and hope for the best, and then we look at the other side, and then we do sometimes we do our best, and sometimes we just think that, okay, this is normal, it's been this way forever, this is normal, this is natural, which is, okay, we understand, okay, it's not. I mean, natural and normal are always relative attributes, and what we are used to is not the only normal and only natural. But the debate is, I think it's quite difficult in Finland. Sometimes we tend to get emotional, and then there's no point in discussing if somebody's very emotional.
I must say, I think it's really interesting to discuss also the stories that are told by whom. I really want to divide the questions in one way, because I think the access to support system is not supposed to be designed for women to tell female stories or so. As a woman, you can tell any story as well as you can as a man. But still, I think, of course, if more women are making films, the stories are going to look different in a while. Not each film by itself, but combined. If you look at a landscape with 50-50 filmmakers, the stories are going to look different from a total male environment, I think. So that's of course an important thing that we have to help describe our society as it looks, not as someone thought it should look 200 years ago.
Yes, we also have in Finland. We have got a lot of help from the audience, because I think we have a new heavy user, and she is a middle-aged woman. And because it was only like 10 years ago when the heavy user was a young man, a young man, and the very successful box office-wise successful films were they were the target audience, and they were targeted, and they got good big audiences. But now we have experienced in Finland that films made by women, targeted to women, have been the most successful box office-wise, and I think that's something, because then it's the hard facts. Then it's the minimum guarantee that the producers are going to get from the distributor, and help the finance the whole package. And I think we are all very grateful for Finnish women that have now bought the tickets.
I think it's really interesting what you're talking about. I don't know if it's the same trend in Sweden. It probably is. I just don't know about it. But in other areas of culture, it's known since long that middle-aged women are the as we call them in Swedish, kulturtanten is the big supporter of the theaters, the operas, and the libraries and so on. Maybe that's moving to cinemas as well. Maybe we're old-fashioned if we don't provide them with films that's suitable for
but they are
audience.
also ridiculed, how do you say, förlöjligade in a way.
Yes, and the word I said is a little bit ridiculous. It's like minimizing them, kulturtant.
If we now should start thinking our words, and, what we say in many levels. I think just let's see at a little short film, and we can go further after that.
Should we move?
I think we have to move. Arvidsson, and she was at the Berlinale last year, and she has a long project with it. Sometimes it's a short film, but she also has a feature-length film. So I just want to ask you, is there a female gaze or a male gaze? Can one say that?
A female.
En kvinnlig blick.
Maybe. They say there is,
But what do you think?
If the way you look is gender-based, I mean, I think, of course, some situations when you look, you see something, you see it through your gender or sex. And then there's a lot of things that gender and sex are irrelevant. But yeah, for us who see a lot of films and have been watching a lot of films, I think the idea of maybe it goes to the portraying female stereotypes in the mainstream films, and yeah, I think that is a big issue, because the stereotypes are so the stereotypes that the films and art create are so strong that we take them as being the natural and the normal, and it's very, very difficult to challenge that and say that is a stereotype. But yes, and maybe.
What do you think?
Probably, but in one hand, if you look at some films, if you would look at, for example, the film She Monkeys, the Swedish film, or Eat, Sleep, Die, or even The Reunion, that's on cinemas now, if you wouldn't know anything about the directors, could you say that? Could you guess that this must be a female director? I think maybe you could. Maybe you could pinpoint those films and say this must be a female director. On the other hand, I think I'm not really willing to talk about the female gaze in one way, because I think it's like I'm talking about the support system that shouldn't be designed for you to tell specific stories out of your sex. You could tell, as I was talking about before, you could do a crime story if you want. You could make an action movie if you want. That's not. You shouldn't be forced to make films with a female gaze because of your sex, I think. So I'm sort of ambivalent towards that kind of words.
Is there a discussion in Finland about quality when you start talking about gender, or
about quality?
Yeah.
Yes, all our decisions are quality based. There's nothing else. Only that we have to keep in our mind that the quality is also it's a relative attribute. I mean, it's not one thing. There's quality, many kinds of qualities, and yes, we talk about quality, but I think it's more. It's not so. The decision making. We are not really dictators. I mean, we help the producers and the filmmakers to complete their financing in the end. At the end of the line, it's the completion of financing, and then we help and then we give what we have and like that. But it's not like we are the only ones who decide for projects. It's more often like I have 3 as strong candidates, and then it's somebody else who makes actually the final decision by adding the last bit of money to some production, and then it goes off. I mean, I think it's more practical, and the decision making. I think the most of the real decision making is in the other side of the line, the screenplay, or even earlier the film school, or even earlier. But for us, it's the screenplay phase is the first when we meet the screenwriters, and I think then there's some, you can put your effort and help somebody, or pick somebody who nobody else saw as quality. But at the other end, there's so many other strong opinions that I think we are only one.
What do you say?
Well, I hear that all the time, that you couldn't decide about art with sex as an instrument. You have to have the only instrument quality, but that suggests that you have an objective view of quality, which we of course doesn't have. So I think that's almost a stupid discussion, I think, because I think that there's nothing that shows that films with female directors gets better reviews. They have there's nothing that shows that female directors makes films with lower quality. Not even films with lower admissions. So it's like a non-discussion, I think. And you have to have in mind that, well, what we did for a long time was to have a system where men get a free ticket without showing better quality, just because of our sex. So what we're trying to do is just balance that a little bit. I talked about one of my commissioners about that, his view on this kind of gender balance in film business, and his answer was really clear. He said, well, to me it's really simple. To me, quality, to get quality, you need gender balance. You also need other kind of balance, like ethnical balance, to get quality. That's his view on that, and I think he's absolutely right.
But could you, somehow through the line, I mean, in the film school, it's obvious that there are 50-50 more or less, or maybe even more women, as in many other studies, law, and so. Where is to define where it goes? I mean, where it goes wrong?
I think there's two basic points where it goes wrong. One is the industry and how the industry looks, and especially with feature fiction films where it's a lot of money. It's a pile of money in those projects. There's an industry that's not willing to discuss things like gender balance when they're investing in distributing or showing on cinema a film. That's one point. Another point is, how do you as a woman look? How does I look as a man? And what happens when we're entering a career with very high demands? Someone in the seminar before in the audience talked about that women are more well prepared, more well educated. They maybe don't throw themselves into projects as easy as men. Almost most of the projects, which is punk films, people that without the support systems just makes a film, that's almost always men, young men that does that. That says something about how we're willing to, or how the business, the film business, are prepared to handle your way of working. And maybe our business is not designed as well to handle the way women are willing to work. That sounds a bit dizzy, I think, but do you get my point?
Yeah. I would go with the industry. So it's like the old school networks that are mainly among men, and in a large scale the industry in many levels. That the way it should be done is so clearly against women, and then I would say balancing family and work, because that is, as a filmmaker, that is quite difficult when you are up and coming, and then you should really put an effort and make 12-hour days and like that. And if you have to combine that with a family, maybe children, and then for many cases, I think women they go to education and as a teachers and do something less demanding, and while they're doing that, the men go forward, and then it really somehow it takes some of the females away of the really the hot spotlight, the core, the really when they, because I think you have to break into the feature film circles early enough to really be taken seriously there.
So it seems like the structure is very, very hard in a way, because when we make special efforts like Rookie or any other thing, suddenly we have tons of scripts and directors, and it's another way of. So, do we have like a wall that is made up of different methods of filmmaking, or?
I don't get your.
No, I mean when we make a special effort, then we get all these scripts. We say we don't get enough scripts, but they are there. So what?
But we will get them also if we quote, if we have 50-50.
And do we get them now?
No, not the applications are not like 50-50 yet, but we will. I'm sure that we will get them.
We are on our way.
Yes,
or
we're supposed to divide the money over the period of the film agreement. That's 3 years. And if you look at the statistics, what decisions we made this last year, it doesn't look all that good. But that also has to do with that we are making decisions based on promises that the film commissioners made 2012, and the films were fully financed only in 2013. But if you look at the money spent on the new film agreement this last year, then it's already equal. So I'm positive we're going to make it. It's not going to be a big problem. And it's not like I hear the commissioners whining about that they have to force a female director in. It's not a problem to them, I think.
Okay, now I think maybe someone in the audience would like to ask questions.
Or make a statement.
Yeah. Wait for a microphone, so we all can hear you.
First there, or... Oh, okay. Maria Edström from Nordic, who we were doing the statistics before. I just would have liked to hear the Danish and Norwegian institutes, of course. But now when we have the two Finnish and Swedish, like, how would you explain the different attitudes towards the issue of gender equality and quotas and stuff? Like, you sometimes talk about the Nordic culture of gender equality, but when it comes to the media, you have totally different logics on how to think about these issues.
I think that you would hear about the same from Swedish Film Institute 5 years ago as we hear from Finnish Film Foundation. It's not that you as a person don't want to make gender equality work. It's that it's really hard if you're not forced. It's hard to fight this fight alone. So that's the good point, I think, with the film agreement pointing at this. It makes our job much easier. It makes it much easier to defend that here when it's an obligation and not something someone asks us to do.
And I somehow think that for Finland it means the question is, if I read between the lines, that why are we not there? Like, well, I think we haven't faced the facts maybe, and nobody has been active enough to really force the head of the foundation or the really the decision makers to put it into to have an agenda. And I think behind that is that in Finland we still we are in the delusion that women are equal, that you are equal, you can vote. I mean, you can have your own bank account and everything. You are equal. What are you complaining about? And so it's really difficult to point out where the discrimination is, because it's in the system. It's in the so hidden that it's very difficult to point for those who don't somehow feel it and somehow they don't. It's easy to close your eyes. I don't know if this thing is going to go forward in Finland, maybe because our CEO has been active on it, and I think she made an initiative that we have a think tank afternoon with the industry people and really tackle the question.
Det var typ frågan, jag tänkte mer på det när ni pratade om det här var, när det begränsas möjligheten, att om det är 50-50 som kommer in på skolorna, vad händer sen, vad tar de vägen? Och man kan,
prata inte så snabbt.
Nej,
så att alla hör det.
Ja, nej, men att om man kan göra den bilden lite mer komplex eller nyansera den. Det är också frågan vilka, alltså jag har inga statistiska belägg för det här, men vilka som kommer in av de här 50-50, om de 50-50 som kommer in, hur mycket har killarna gjort när de kommer in av de här 50-50 och hur mycket har tjejerna gjort och vilket självförtroende har de när de kommer in? Och tittar man, det finns det är mer belagt med psykologiska studier, att mycket av din självbild, av din världsbild och vilka möjligheter du har i världen, det grundläggs och sätter sig i din hjärna någonstans i tonåren innan du är 20. Så sätter sig, kommer du att bära med dig resten av livet, vilka möjligheter du har i världen utifrån gender och etnicitet och klass och sådana saker. Det finns till exempel också musik, så de hävdar att om du inte har lyssnat på klassisk musik med många olika variationer innan du är 12, så kommer du inte har du väldigt svårt att tillgodogöra till exempel indisk musik sen. Det blir bara ett kaos att lyssna på. Så det är verkligen så här hur hjärnan fungerar. Men, och då är det här, jag vill bara säga det, att med de här unga tjejerna till exempel då, att som kommer in och som jag tror kommer bli en skillnad framöver, som har mycket mer, som jag ser då, de här unga tjejerna idag har så otroligt mycket mer självförtroende och kastar sig in mycket snabbare i 20-årsåldern och har hunnit gjort mycket mer saker när de är väldigt unga, och det kommer de bära med sig framöver när de kommer in. Och jag vet ju många tjejer jag träffar i den åldern, de hänvisar helt explicit till Anna Särner, och det att hon tar den här standen och uttalar det här explicit från sin position och gör det på ett sätt som är väldigt by heart convincing. Så att jag menar inte att Karin tar också fram saker som är väldigt viktiga, det här med problem som kommer och olyckliga omständigheter som kommer i en viss ålder och som sammanfaller där på ett olyckligt sätt. Men jag tror också man kollar på effekter av de här arbeten som görs, att man har det här vida perspektivet och ser hur det påverkar långt ner i åldrarna, och att det tar tid för människan att förändra sig. Det går liksom inte så här snabbt. Så att.
But when I was talking about one of the problems being how women and men act in the business, I didn't mean that it's like by nature or something, but by our culture. That's how women are supposed to act. So I totally agree. I think it's going to be different in a while. But so far we're brought up to act differently, and we have to sort of compensate for that. I think in support systems like ours, we have to look. I think you talked about that sometime. That how you react when, for example, a female producer demands more money. You think they're whining, while when a young man demands, it's like, oh, he's cool. He's like know what he wants and so on. So we have to look at how we react on different kind of people, I think. But I'm positive it's going to change when the culture change.
Yeah, I don't mean that you should drop doing these things at that stage either. It was just that, like the Doris team did, that they went around at the gymnasieskolor. I thought it's very important work to be done early on.
Sure.
Yeah, and now we also got this special money from the government för unga kvinnors filmskapande. And we heard a girl or young woman yesterday. She was very explicit speaking about this special efforts being made, like this money for mentorship or going to Film Cloud or the Pure Fiction or something. It really gives her energy and a way of becoming a director. So what is the goal of the Film Institute? Is it that these special efforts should be inside the system?
Do you mean special efforts like the money for young female filmmakers?
Yeah.
What do you mean by inside the system? It is inside the system.
Yeah, but what happens when it's when next year when we won't get money, or
yes,
will you make?
Yes, our effort is to take care of that in the system, to take care of female director as well as we do have done for ages with male directors. And I also think that it's important to look at. I'm talking against myself. I also think it's important to look at what some female filmmakers want to do, and that it's maybe we have to look at. Maybe this doesn't look like the kind of projects we're used to. For example, if you describe this film we just saw, talking about a female gaze, this film couldn't have been made by a man. I'm positive. It's a female film. Maybe if you describe it, it's easy to say, well, this sounds a bit weird. What's the point? But when you see the finished film, it's a very clear film. It's very obvious what it's about. And we have to sort of find the kind of glasses where we find space for that kind of projects as well.
Okay, let's see another clip. Yeah, this is because of this Bechdel test that very few film pass. What is the reaction in Finland of this
It was
approved?
It was the discussion of the last fall. I mean, the idea, and I brought it up with some filmmakers that your project, are you going to look at it through this peephole, and do you have two female characters talking to each other? And actually, I had a conversation that it was all male. The producer, screenwriter, director, three men, and then I said, well, you could have two female characters, and you have yes, we could, and we kind of have, because our main character could have a wife and a mistress. And then I said, okay, he could have a wife and a mistress, but then the two female characters have to talk about something with each other. Okay, that's difficult. But it can't be arranged, because he can get caught and they can talk about him. And there's, okay, wrong again. They can't talk about him. They must talk about something else than a man. And then they were, okay, we are not going to pass. They were not going to pass. And I think I love it, because it shows something, because it's so few films pass, and nowadays some pass on purpose, that they are really designed for that, and some for natural causes, that it's really inside the story and it's natural. But as I talk to men about this test and the idea behind that they really, the honest ones said that, but I've never been in a situation when I hear two women talk with each other, and that is true. I mean, if you are a man, you've never taken part to a discussion with another other person, and then there has to be three people in the discussion, and then it's a totally different story. Then you can talk about whatever, but I think it's interesting that I think it is the female gaze or the male gaze that the screenwriters really we see the world through our eyes, and there's nothing you can do about it. But I think the film stories are so much the stories told by men, and the stories are male dominated, and that I think it's a good tool for us, and I think it's a good lesson for everybody to look at their work and see how well or badly it does the test.
What do you say?
Well, I totally agree. I think it's a genius test, actually, because it's so simple, and it really shows how we talk about each other in our society. It's not about the film industry, it's about the stories we tell each other. And I can't really understand the strong reactions about this test, because it's not designed to say yes or no to a film project when they apply. I mean, Mia Engberg's film is that you talked about earlier, that doesn't pass the test, but that doesn't make it a bad film or anything. It's just a test that shows how our culture are designed towards the discussion about sexes. I also must say I read this article somewhere that in the US someone compared box office numbers with the Bechdel test, and it shows that films that passed did better box office wise, which is really interesting, and it's totally against what we all suppose, that it's like female films, they are special, very small arty films that's not going to make it on box office. It's simply not true.
Any more questions? Yes, there we have one.
Hello, my name is Marie Kjellson. I'm a Gothenburg-based producer. I have a question for you, Hjalmar. And we've heard from the previous seminar and this seminar that there's a lot of female talent in the short film, and there's better statistics there. And I think we all know that there are a lot of female talent. And I think in relation to the Moving Sweden program and female talent in the feature film section, do you see, what's the statistics for this year, and do you see any risk that female talent that should be in the feature area are, how do you say, instead in the Moving Sweden talent program, because they are maybe too afraid of taking the leap to the feature film, or what's the history during this year?
Moving Sweden is a bit too new to discuss in that way. You could compare the novel film program maybe, but I don't really know, because I don't have the history myself, and I don't think we looked into that in that respect. But I want to say something about this still, that it's interesting that we don't have a problem with documentaries or shorts and gender equality. And you could, is it because women choose areas with no money, or is it that they're not let into areas with money? I don't know, but it's really interesting to see that the problem is with the feature films, and specifically the expensive market fiction films.
Thank you.
Good point. It was interesting with the film that you're working, Tourist. No, Johannes, he was supposed to have the leading role, and he said he could ski, but he couldn't. Yeah. And that was a very good point too, to have the courage. And I know. Yeah, I'm not going to go in this long story because it's 3:00. And one more question, Anna Sanner.
No, I actually don't want to make a question, but really to say that why is Denmark and Norway, and Anna Sanner, head of the Swedish Film Institute, Denmark really don't think there is a problem, and that's very much their culture of having a difficulty in talking about gender issues, and they think that we are totally lunatic in Sweden. They said so the last year in Cannes. And Norway actually, now they're changing their CEO from a woman to a man, and I don't know anything about that, but at the same time they've been changing the government. And what I've heard is that the government told the Norwegian Film Institute to stop talking about gender issues. And that is when they get the more right-wing government. And there are a lot of strong forces in doing these things, and you meet a lot of opposition. And just in this seminar, because I was waiting for one of our next speakers, I got a mail from I write a blog. And once I wrote a blog when we started off our gender quality program with the movement, with the female directors. And suddenly I get a lot of comments on that one, which was like 8 months ago or something, that blog. And now I got the comment, Anna Serner is a fag hag or something, and she should be fired on a grey paper. And that is the kinds of comments I get. And of course they don't get posted on the blog, but that's the force you have to work against. And that is of course why you have difficulties when you get different kinds of climate in different countries. And I know that Irina in the Finnish Film Institute, she's been working really hard to be able to talk about these questions. And I am very happy that our government gave us the assignment. And I really hope to be able to continue, because I know for a fact that as soon as someone gets the chance to throw it out, they will do it. So we will just have to fight on, but we will need support, because the industry is not always very happy. So, but thank you for a good conversation.
Thank you.
Excuse
So
me.
I think that was the good ending words. Thank you.
One more.
Yeah.